Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Deadly Departed. This is a very special episode with good friends and colleagues of mine. This is Kev and Jenn Malek, and I'm going to let those guys tell you a little bit about them. But just to let you know, if you think you know something about the paranormal and you listen to these guys, you really don't know anything about the paranormal. They have forgotten more than you know. And it is an absolute honour to have these guys here. In actual fact, these are my first guests on Deadly Departed. Wow. So I'm very honoured to have them as my first guests on here. I have done podcasts and videos and things before, but now as we move forward in this day and age, I'm very selective on the people that I talk to and very selective on the people that I would like to educate the public. And these guys are in that circle, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more of them in the future. But I want to invite you both, Jenn and Kev, to Deadly Departed and also Paranormal Daily News. How are you doing?
Great.
Great. And hello, and thank you for having us on. This is exciting.
And it's an honor to be your first guest, too.
Yes, it is.
That's awesome.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody else that I would like to have on, and as I don't interview many people because there's not many people I want to interview. But I think that comes down to professionalism and understanding the paranormal and really having a grounded perspective of it. So I don't know what one of you guys want to go first, but you know, Jenn, Kev, fire away. Give the guys a background on you.
Okay, we run the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited in Rylander, Wisconsin. We cover the top third of Wisconsin. Myself, I'm a paranormal historian and founder of the NWPS. I'm also a ufologist with the Wisconsin UFO research team and formerly with Mufon as a certified field investigator. I'm also a conspiracy analyst for Ultimate Conspiracies and Apocalypse Nation. Myself and Jennifer both write for Supernatural Magazine, and we host Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, which is a radio show, both AM, FM, and internet radio that deals with the unknown and unexplained, different facets. We have a lot of academic guests on, and
that's run by Kat Hobson, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate Magazine Radio.
Yeah, I've been a guest with Kat. She's lovely.
And this is my lovely wife Jennifer, who is a psychic medium and demonologist. She's a remote viewer of the Project PSI Institute in Chicago. What else?
And I was formerly with the Presidium Warriors of St. Michael.
Oh, that, yeah.
Wisconsin representative. With Project PSI Institute, we are a team of forensic and psychic or mediumistic remote viewers who work on missing persons cases, cold cases, and trafficking cases.
And you've done, and I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, Jenn and the team have done sterling work on missing person cases, and especially trafficking, which we'll not go into here, but I mean, we believe that there's a lot of dark forces in that side of things, and I support all work that can be done to stop that in its tracks, and the work that you do, Jenn, is absolutely phenomenal. But what I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to a few people that I would respect as demonologists, there's a lot of people out there in this day and age that will claim that title, are very young, don't have really any experience, but you know, you actually have, Jenn. I mean, and you've trained within the Catholic Church, and you've had some real professionals that have trained you as a lay demonologist, and it's not something that you just take on in a course, is it?
No, it's not something most people would be geared to go after when it comes to demonology. I actually got my start on before I came across my mentor, who is now since passed away, and may he rest in peace. When I was living in South Florida, I would do medium walks of homes. People would call me in, teams, and I had this one case, and this is going to be a short version of it, where I was asked to do a walk of a home, and as soon as I got there and I got out, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. Go in, I meet this family, do a tour around the house. The house that they lived in was split level. It was 2 floors. And I walked around the whole entire bottom of the house, didn't feel anything, everything felt fine. I got ready to go upstairs to do the walk on the 2nd floor. Now, you ever see those set of steps where it goes up and then it kind of curves on an angle and there's a flat step?
Yeah.
I'd gotten up that far. I put my hand on the railing. I froze in my spot because I was looking up at the top of the stairs. I literally saw the 7-foot-tall black shadowy mass standing there. At this point, I can't yell, I can't scream, and I'm trying.
You freeze, don't you?
Yeah, right, you freeze. I was literally frozen in fear. I was completely caught off guard. This thing was, and I'm the type of person, and we talk about this, I don't give names to these beings because I don't want to attract their attention. I don't.
Very important thing.
By saying their names, it's like equivalent to ringing a dinner bell.
Yeah.
So this thing told me its name, and it was pretty high up. This thing rushed at me before I could react, picked me up from where I was standing, and threw me across the room. I smacked right up against the wall. I had this thing at the top of the stairs laughing at me. The people that called me in to do the walk, not the homeowner, for the homeowners, helped me up. And as they're helping me up, I look over. The homeowners are laughing at me. At this point, I have this particular demonic entity telling me that I had no right to be in its space. It was invited.
And that's an important aspect, is that there has to be an invitation at some point.
Yeah. So in this instance, afterwards, they were helping me out the door, and I looked at these people and I said, you don't need people to walk into the home. I said, it's obviously that you're trapping people into getting attacked to see if they can come in and pick up anything. I said, all of you are sick. I said some words I won't say on air because it's just not polite. I said, you need Jesus. They helped me home. I had a sprained ankle. I started noticing around the time that I would start seeing day and night little black shadows around the house. And as soon as I saw that, that's when it clicked. I'm sitting there going, oh, great. Something followed me home. It got to the point where this thing would scratch me. I would get pinned up against furniture, on furniture. It didn't matter if it was during the day. It didn't matter if it was during the night. I finally got tired of it. And I had actually called a Catholic priest, and I explained that there was something in my house. I explained my situation, and we made arrangements for him to come out. Now, on this particular night, after I hung up the phone, I decided I was going to take a shower. Now, I'm the type of person, I have St. Benedict medals on me. I don't take them off. They never leave my body ever. They're like part of my anatomy. And I had them on a ribbon. And I was in the middle of a shower, and all of a sudden it got really cold in the shower, and I heard a clinking sound. The ribbon was still intact. When I looked down, the medals were on the floor of the shower. This thing proceeded to pin me up against the shower wall and smack the snot out of me.
And people don't realize that that's just child play for that type of intelligence. It's not even, that's just the start. So
afterwards, and I knew it was late, and I called the priest back, and I was hysterical, of course. I was upset, and I explained to him what happened. He came out the next day. Now, I want to tell everybody, he didn't do a major rite. He did a blessing on the home. Mm-hmm. And when he did that, he got rid of this thing. And normally people like me who would go through this would be like, oh no, I'm not touching that with the 10-foot pole. I was curious. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know about who these beings were, what they were about, how they operate, why they do the things that they do. So I started reading books magazines, I'd go to forums, I'd go to libraries, anything I get my hands on. And it wasn't until how many years ago when I met Ken?
Well, you mentored under Ken for 4 years.
For 4 years.
And of course, Ken's Franciscan Roman Catholic demon.
Yeah.
Ken Deal,
yeah.
Franciscan Roman Catholic demonologist. Yeah, and he just passed away last week. And,
yeah, sorry for your friend. I noticed. I saw a couple of posts of that, and you did. Your team worked extensively on different cases with him.
Well, he was. He was him and Farah. We could call them.
Yeah.
You know, if there was something that was, demonology related that was
right.
we needed advice with or a second opinion on.
Right.
Those kinds of things, and plus just
and then recommendations, like if we got contacted with a person that we thought had serious issues, because we have gotten contacted over the years by several, but since we use anonymity, we don't ever put that out in public, but we would always call Ken and be like, hey, you have time, can we talk to you? We have this person contacting us, say from Arizona, we don't know what to do you have any recommendations? He would then they would actually go through their network and see what they could find to help the person.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you'll also agree with me here, Jen, is the out of 100 cases that come forward that are potentially diabolical, there's probably 0.1 that actually merit anything looked at. There's a lot of them are just but you have to take everything seriously until you do due diligence, obviously.
Yeah, it's a rarity. When you come across the true possession of a true case of demonic possession, it's extremely rare.
Yeah. And it's not something that you dabble on in a weekend. Which,
no.
Where you and I, we've all seen the weekend warriors that have gone out and done that, and it causes more damage than anything else. But so you've mentored. I mean, you trained and you studied and you spent. You did a lot of not only work researching, but you've learned a great deal along the way, and then. But you tell us a little bit about you guys, because you guys actually met on a paranormal.
We did.
Was it a paranormal dating site? Or was this like just a paranormal group?
No.
Hey, I'm into spooks, so you're into spooks. Get it together, guys.
Well, we met over Facebook, just in the paranormal community, and Jennifer and myself started talking. And after a few months of talking, we asked her if she would remote view a case for us, and she did. And she nailed it. She impressed myself, who I tend to be skeptical. I'm a skeptical believer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm a skeptical medium, so that works.
And but yeah, through the whole time we were, through the months and months, and we grew closer, and I realized there was no red flags with Jennifer as far as anything. We were, so she remote viewed the case. I invited her to come up and stay with me for a few weeks and see the case through. And she said yes, and she flew a plane up here, and we've been together ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And you make a really you're like my wife and I are like you two. We work together, and she deals a lot. She's very anonymity. She doesn't go out in the public. I mean, she does. She's a renowned healer and stuff, but she deals a lot with curses and things like that, and people are grounded. I kind of deal more with the heavy stuff, and she deals with that kind of stuff, and it makes a good team. And you guys are just exactly the same. You make a great team.
Thank you.
We do want to point out that we are not affiliated with the Roman Catholic Church. We are non-denominational Christian. We honor any religion that is a greater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? Going back to that though, in a lot of the cases, and I'm sure you'll agree. Many cases that I had that somebody had contacted me a little while ago and said, and I need to dig this out. They said there is no skeptic or no atheist has ever been possessed, right? Which is actually untrue.
Right.
There's atheist cases where they've been possessed. So anybody who's listened to this, it is not tied to the Catholic Church. However, the interesting thing is, and I mentioned this in my book, is that the Catholic Church got the movie, so they got the scare fest, and that's what kind of done it. But what I will say about the Catholic Church, there is a reason that Buddhism, that even Anglicans and Baptists, and if we look at the other cases that have been recent, they've called in the Catholic Church not because they're the ones that do it and they're the best, but my theory is they're the ones that have put the most resources and historical understanding into it. And there's a lot of other religious, what do you call them? What's the word I'm looking for, Jen? Different rights that they've got in different religions have based themselves on that. But you know as well as I do, demonology goes back to ancient Mesopotamia. It goes further back than that. I mean, it goes way back into ancient Greece. It's not down to the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church has put a lot of effort into it.
They have.
And that's why in a lot of the cases you'll see, we had a pastor come out and the pastor eventually had to call in the Catholic Church. It's not because they're the best. And also what I'll say is, and you can disagree or not, but a lot of people have said to me and asked me recently, why is it there's been a lot of failure in the Catholic Church, a failure with the priests that have not been able to exorcise the demons? And I say that's not down to the rite, and it's not down to the religion, it's actually down to the priest.
Yes, I completely agree with you.
It's down to they're probably not the right person, and they don't have the right piety, and they don't have the right energy. And it doesn't make, and I'm not affiliated to the Catholic Church. Yes, I had a background with it. My uncle was a monk. I spent a lot of time. I met exorcists and all sorts of things. And like you, I had such an interest in it.
Right, it's like the same thing for us. We have a background with it, but
Yeah. And we'll go into a Roman Catholic Church and and have mass, and but it doesn't mean that we're affiliated with them.
No.
And
I've prayed in synagogues, I've prayed in mosques, I've prayed with Buddhists. To me, it doesn't matter what the label is. It's the energy that's behind it.
Right, and then another thing that a lot of people out there, they may or may not realize it, that who are listening, when you come with demonic entities, they just don't have one name.
No,
They have one demon can have I can't a bunch of names. And they go back to Mesopotamia.
Ancient. And the thing is why? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to get their name and think, oh, that's the truth.
Right, no. And people are like, oh, well, that's the name. And I'm like, yeah, but did you bother to look up this name? Because this name is also associated with it. And they'll look it up and they'll find none of their names. And they're like, wait, I know that. I'm like, yeah, when it comes to different demonic entities, they have more than one.
Yeah.
Well, look at the pantheon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example, right? Yeah. Every pantheon is basically the same set of characters with different names.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we know the pantheons are demigods.
And the interesting thing, and we spoke earlier on, guys, and just before we came on and we came on live, the interesting thing is that we don't put so much, or you don't put so much emphasis in knowing the name of the demon in that case. I mean, at the end of the day, because you don't want to have a little flag that says, I am here.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. Through my late mentor, Ken, he sent me books. He actually wrote the books for the Catholic Demonologist Handbook and the Workbook and Study Guide. He also did the same set for the Christian version of it. And he tells you in the beginning of the book, warning, your life is about to change. So it's like once you read this, or once you start reading this and you're starting to learn more about them, they're going to be on to you.
Oh,
so
yeah.
One of the things he always told me was that when you study, he goes, do it maybe once or twice a week. He goes, for maybe a half hour. He goes, step away from it. Don't get sucked into it. He goes, because if you do, you're going to start getting visitations. These things are going to start. And me, I was so fascinated and so excited to read this book that for the first time I read it, I kept reading. Now, what I like about his books is, one thing I want to point out, he puts prayers for you to say before you read and prayers to say after you read.
It's funny, that's actually what I do. I actually say St. Michael's Prayer beforehand.
So I noticed the first time I started studying, I wouldn't necessarily see them, but I would feel eyes on me.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put the book down, and as soon as I said the prayers afterwards, put the book down and walked away, after a couple of minutes, I didn't feel it anymore. And so one of the things I tell people too, when you study into this subject, it is deep. You're never going to learn everything because there's so much to know.
It's continual.
It's vast. I said, there's no end to it. I said, when you decide to do this work, I said, you're putting all those particular beings on a high alert, because the minute you do that, they're going to be onto you. I said, and I always have this thing there where once one knows you, they all know you.
You know something, I think you and I spoke about this quite a while ago, actually, is the fact that when I was writing the book, I kind of knew it, and a colleague of mine says, you know something, Jock, you know, they're not going to want to get that, they're not going to want to get that book out there. They're just not want to get you to get that book out there. And I know that I had issues, and there is, I mean, Deadly Departed has got a massive history. It had a different name. There's been so many changes, but there's been a lot of phenomena from it. And I knew that when I came out with it, it would be a bigger target. And we've spoke about it. And people don't, I think what it is paranormal teams as well, and even mediums that maybe don't understand it, or they get a phone call to get help with someone, they don't really know what they're letting themselves in for, because they don't really understand the mechanics of it. And this kind of leads me on as well to a lot of the phenomena, a lot of the experiences that people have that claim are innocuous, like UFO things, which Kev will get into that in a minute, because that's fascinating. But you have people that say they'll deal with Ouija boards and they've never had anything happen, and it's, well, you haven't had anything happen yet. Right.
Because another thing I remind people of, these things never lived. Time does not exist to them. They don't have time like we do. They can come at you 5 days from now, a month from now, 12 years from now. When you do get backlash from it, it's going to be when they're ready to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's going to be one of the things.
And you're not going to see it coming.
That's going to be one point out in the studies too that we present, is that for all the people that have filled out the questionnaires from different doctors and PhDs and whatnot, and study groups, asking how their experiences were they positive, were they negative? Mm-hmm. These people are still living until they pass. We won't have the complete truth of, you know. No. In other words, right now, and this is something that Chris acknowledged. Yeah. Right now, to date, no problems. I don't anticipate any. We'll just see how it goes. I'm just going to
right.
And you know, and yeah. So and that's what you can do. It's just continue to be yourself. Try to be a decent person and do what's right, and do the things you need to do to be stable and productive. And but yeah, it's just like we have the studies and we have the data, but the people that filled that out, something can happen tonight that may change their opinion forever.
Yeah.
You know, so just to note.
And I think another thing that's really important, guys, is that, and I've said this when I lecture on it or when I talk about it, is that it won't always come with phenomena. Because your battlefield is the mind. And at the end of the day, it's the mind that they're going to, it's the mind they want, because the mind being connected to the soul and the divine aspect of you. The phenomena is just to break down the mind.
Yeah.
And if and higher level intelligent parts of those lead gens don't even want, this is the thing. When someone walks in and goes, you know, yeah, there's a demon in here and everything else, I'm like, really? Actually, demons don't want to be recognized, and they're not going to come and let them know that they're there.
Right. It's not like you're going to be taking photos and one smiles for a picture. It's like, no, if they don't want you to know that they're there.
Demon of the day.
You can use equipment in houses and have one. And if they're not there, if they don't want you to know that they're there, you're not going to detect them.
I say, you know, first of all, I don't know of any pictures of a demon that we can say, okay, that is a demon, and everybody academically assesses and confirms that picture is. We don't have that. Now, we might get stuff like static on a camera or from a streak or something if their presence is around.
Right.
That to me would be more susceptible. But when we get people that are like, they contact us and they're like, you know, I think I'm haunted, my house is haunted, and I think I got a demon, and here are the pictures I have.
Yeah.
It's like, the first thing I tell them is like, no matter what you send us, your case will not be assessed on the pictures. Your pictures.
I get that all the time.
I mean, unless it's some super amazing picture that may be of academic work that we can actually say, wow, you know, there's witnesses.
We should research this. Yeah.
Confirmable and triple validation. But otherwise, it's just like, okay, I'm more interested in the experience you had than the picture that you got. And the other thing is, when, like, it's that old saying, don't operate on yourself.
Right.
If you think you got paranormal activity in your house, if you decide that you're going to be the investigator and you're going to dive into that, know that your odds of experiencing paranormal activity are going to go up.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have a great saying, Kev. Honestly, I have a great saying that I tell people. I say, if you know your home is haunted, it's not. If you think it might be haunted, it possibly is.
Well, one of the things that we do when we work with clients in the past and up until even recent, we'll tell them to keep log.
Yeah.
Of the activity. Write down the day, the date, the time, you know, the weather, the conditions, because sometimes weather can cause paranormal activity. You know, if you're seeing shadows, what time you're seeing them, what room you're seeing them. We want to make sure that they have a log, and so when we go to deal with them, we can then have access to that log and see what's going on with the activity. Because if you have a log, then at least you're able to keep track of stuff. Because if you have someone that has activity and they're not keeping a log, they may experience something and then completely forget about it.
I question a lot of people that actually approach and say, I've got a haunted home, I've got nothing. And I say, okay, what's been happening? Well, this has happened. And how long ago was that? Well, yesterday. And is there any other information? What happened the week before, the day before? What's that? Don't know. Nothing. And so it tells you that there's not enough intelligence there for you to even make a decision to go out and look at it or visit it.
Oh, right. I mean, we get that too, where it's like, first of all, we don't take every case that comes to us. And there are times where after you talk with them, either it's a situation like what you said, where it's just not enough has happened, they're not documenting it, it doesn't seem to be, it's almost like, oh, by the way, my house is haunted, come over and check it out if you want, it would be cool. It's like, well, you know, maybe 30 years ago I would have said yes, but today, no, because we're busy and people, you know, we're trying to, there's other cases that are more concerning.
Yeah.
I think it boils down to this, guys, is that the real cases means real suffering. And if someone says, hey, we're haunted, it might be quite cool to come over and check it out. Normally, you know, when someone's approaching you and they're in tears and they're crying and their whole house is upside down and they don't know what they're doing and their family are getting driven apart, these people are suffering, and that's when you take it serious.
Yes. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, now I forgot what I was going to say. Dang it. Oh, well, it will come back. It just had to do with the home and assessing the situation. I don't remember. Let's move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. When we do cases, what we usually do is we do a preliminary.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to the clients and we'll set up an appointment to go over to the home and we'll meet with them. And We'll bring out various equipment like
I'm sorry, I remember my thought, but
Okay, go ahead.
No,
I can get back to it.
you sure?
Yeah, I can get back to it.
Oh, just that there are times when people contact us, and it's not like for us to go in there and start investigating can increase the activity. And there are
Absolutely.
times where, look, if you're comfortable in your home and nobody's getting hurt, nobody's getting messed with, and you're okay with the door handle jiggling once in a while, or this or that, or the footsteps, then so many people live with hauntings.
Yeah.
It's fine. We appreciate the interest that you have shown in our society and appreciate the offer to come out. But if we come out and if anything does get worse, then we don't want to be the catalyst for that.
Yeah.
Our number one rule is that we must never make anything worse. I mean, period.
Yeah.
And
I think that's important, Kevin, and that's honourable because so many people contact, and the first thing a paranormal team, or I would like to say that the weekend paranormal warriors that do it just as a hobby, can cause more problems, and they don't realise it. You know. And
one of the things that we don't do, and we tell people not to do this because you don't know what kind of spirit you're dealing with. You don't know if it's human, number one. You don't know if it's inhuman. You don't know the emotional state that it's in. So when you have these people that go in and they'll lay out equipment, or they'll start screaming and yelling and call the entity or call the human spirit or just provoking, and they'll just sit there and they'll poke the bear with the stick until they get something. And if they do it to a family, and this is something that always is an issue with us, because it's happened. We've heard of cases where people will come in thinking that they're going to get activity when these families are expecting them to help them. They come in, they provoke, they get the piece of activity, they get the piece of evidence that they want, and they leave. Mm-hmm. And by doing what they did, they don't come back. The homeowners never hear from them again. And now they just made it 10 times worse for the people living in the home because they decided to go in and provoke. We don't provoke. When we do investigations, we introduce ourselves. We tell them who we are, why we're here. We'll lay out equipment for them to communicate. We'll make room for them to walk or sit. If we're standing, we'll part ways. So we give that particular energy, to come up to the table to interact, or we'll leave an empty chair. And we've found that when you do that and you're respectful to them, we've gotten some pretty good activity because we don't go.
I would probably batter on that's not batter, but that's probably when you're dealing with a human grounded entity rather than being inhuman. Because an inhuman one's not going to pull up a chair with you
all the time. And there's a percentage of time where that 1% of the time where religious provocation is required to assess the situation better.
Right.
Yeah. You need to identify what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And very rare.
Right. Well, I meant to say with human spirits, I was going to get to at some point the religious provocation, but no. But so we don't provoke because it's not safe. It's very dangerous. If you walk into a home expecting, whether you're expecting something or not, and you provoke, sometimes something may happen to you in the home. Something may actually follow you and mess with you, because look at all these people that have done it and people have gotten scratched. Give an example, and it's because provocation is just not safe, and it's just something that we don't do, and we always recommend that.
I don't know about you guys, but I cringe when I see a paranormal
as far as
doing that.
I want to bring it back to what she was talking about, the preliminary, just so we can finish that thought, because she started on that, and I didn't mean to interrupt. But so we get a call, and if we decide that, we're going to go out and we're going to look into this. This what we're hearing, what we're feeling feels like it would be, we should just do this. There's no other way to put it. Sometimes you can tell by each case and the circumstances whether you should even get involved or not. And And sometimes you says, yeah, we can help. I think we may be able to help you, in some way, or at least educate you, if nothing else. And so we'll go and do a preliminary, which is, the interviewing the client. The mediums do a walk and absorb information, and we test the EMF, electromagnetic frequency baseline readings, and see what's in the house, if anything could be affecting people. The mediums don't blurt out on everything they come across. You take that information back, all that information, the interview and what the mediums picked up on, and the mediums keep, like I said, it's not like on TV where they're walking around and telling the homeowner everything as they're going on.
Right.
You can really cause problems.
Yeah.
If you see a floating bloody head, we should probably talk about it before you go telling the homeowner you're going to scare them half to death.
Right. Right.
Kind of thing, to just give an example. But and then we'll go do the history and look and see what the mediums picked up on, if there's any historical we can document, and also what all the information the people gave us, so we could check that out. Then we can go back and do a night investigation, and then we can go through the evidence, see if we got anything, and then at the end present all of it to them. And then from there decide, sometimes the case is done at that point. Other times, if we find that it should be addressed, things need to be addressed in some way, then we start working on that.
Yeah.
And it's knowing where your boundaries are and who you can call upon to take that element on.
Yeah. So with the families that we work with and business owners, and a lot of people don't understand it, or may not understand it, but there's a lot of aftercare involved. We're with them.
Absolutely.
They're with them from the very beginning, even till a month afterwards. We'll still check up on them, sit there and say, hey, it's us. How have you been? How are things going?
And I don't see a lot of that. That's very admirable. And in actual fact, here's the thing. I haven't actually found a paranormal team or people near me that I would ever call upon, because I've never found really professional people. If I was going to call on people, it would be like, hey, Jenn, Kev, I need you to look into this at this part of it. Or it would be, it would be one of the guys that I know in Canada, or somebody that I've got legitimate histories that are scientific, that take everything into account. There's just no way I would call up spook detectors and say, hey, I've had a case come in, and I tend to not even get, and I think especially because a lot of the stuff that I get coming in it's not your average. I don't go out on ghost tours and stuff like that, and in the cases you get, it's not your average type of case that comes in.
The thing is, we have our society, and we cover the top third of Wisconsin, which is actually a big area for a paranormal society to cover, I think.
Yeah, it is.
But obviously we can't afford to go outside of that area to help people.
No.
And we'll try to network, and when we can, certainly we'll get calls come in, and it's like that's out of our coverage area, but at the same time you want to make sure that it's like, well, we still want to help you. So we'll turn them on to resources. Here's, for instance, paranormalsocieties.com. I know that a lot of the teams in there, probably maybe even up to a quarter of them, aren't active anymore.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of teams in there that are active, and the ones that survive the test of time are really the teams you want, because they have experience. And a lot of them teams, not all the teams have a demonologist if you're experiencing very malicious and negative, and you want that assessed. But some teams do, and the teams that don't have them know the teams that do have them.
Mm-hmm.
Or when they get the stuff that comes in, then it's too dark for them to deal with. Because we do Paraversal Universe, and because the show's been on for a while now,
and it's a long-standing show, isn't it?
Wisconsin. What's that?
It's a long-standing show.
Thank you.
And it's a good show. And I want to say, guys that are listening, you should check out, Para Universe. Check it out anyway. And these guys, the Paranormal Society they run in Wisconsin, it's a 501c3 non-profit. So This is not a weekend warrior type thing. These guys are very, very serious in what they do, and they cover the whole of that area. So, I mean, there's very few paranormal teams that are really set up like that have open doors. And you have your own research library and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we run the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center right here, and the library's in the next room over 1,000 books.
We have over 1,000 books.
On the unknown and
including mine, guys.
Right. And counting, right?
And counting, yeah.
That doesn't count like if you got like
I have
20
books there, I have books there, I have books all over the place. So it's like
30 in the bedroom,
right.
some over there, and I got
right.
a few over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and because of the radio show, and because Jennifer advertises as a demonologist, in the sense that her like page says Jennifer Malek, psychic demonologist.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you don't have Google ads that go out. I know that.
A lot of people,
just in case anybody's listening, they don't have Facebook ads for demonologists.
Well, here's the thing: a lot of people will want to talk to a demonologist, and they'll type in demonologist, and the names come up, and Jennifer is one of the names in the list. And a lot of demonologists aren't approachable because they're specifically denominationally oriented.
Yeah.
So if the one person is not in their denomination, there could be issues. So they're not comfortable approaching certain people. But when they see medium or psychic along with that, they figure, well, here's someone that's a little more open.
Yeah.
And because of the abilities, that's also an asset. Yeah. So I'm going to contact them. Yeah. So because of that reason, the mail Jennifer gets on her demonology page is actually more overall than the mail we get on our Society Life page for the area we cover.
Yeah.
Because the demonology stuff is coming in from everywhere because of the radio show, and because when you Google search demonologist, because of her like page, and because she's got whatever likes, it comes up on the list sooner than later, which is actually kind of cool. Yeah. But most of the stuff that comes in, it's like, you're not in our area. Here's an article we wrote on this. Here's an article we wrote on that. For research.
A lot of it, you can help a lot of people with education.
What's that?
You can help a lot of people with education as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for us, even dealing with the fear factor. I mean, and we've had, like, for instance, in the past, we've had clients that are, we'll just say, through the course of investigation, you come to understand that they're prone, or they're more likely to see things than the average person, whether they have abilities or whatever. And so no matter where they go, they're going to have experiences. And first of all, no team could come in and claim that they're going to alleviate all experiences and they can cure whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Nobody can professionally do that. And we tell them that, but when you do have an experience, if we can help change your focus on that experience,
absolutely,
then we're empowering you. And we've seen that to where we had one client where at first, when they're telling us about their experiences, they have anxiety attacks and get, the last time they had an experience, they sent us a letter, said they had this thing that like swirling gray thing that like once in a while we'll see, and she said, I scolded it like a child. I treated it completely different. I wasn't afraid for the first time. I don't know why. And I'm thinking, well, I like to think it's because we've been working with her about how, like, in other words, these things are not going to control your life if you let them. You can do this, you can do that. When you do this, it helps. When you do that, it helps. This is why we do this. This is why we do that. And just that, other people have dealt with this and they've beaten this, and we're here with you every step of the way. Just all them things was enough, I like to think, to give her, and she told us about that. She felt great about it.
She did.
Like, for the first time, she's understanding that she's going to experience this stuff, and she can't let it intimidate her.
Yeah.
And she's getting the knowledge, because that's what they're built. That's what essentially they're trying to play on your fear and to play on your emotion and everything else, and build upon that, and they're able to break down your psychological barriers and able to get an access point into something, you know. So I think education is really, really, really important, and to do that and to be, there's few people, I think, or few teams that are like you guys that will give them the whole support scenario right through it, and I think that's really, really, really important.
And the other thing is, like with us, the NWPS has got 20 members. Most of the members we're really fortunate, because the idea was to bring the best paranormal minds in northern Wisconsin to one place where we can help families. And so we have members that have joined that have brought their academics into play.
That's awesome. I like that.
So we have like Tom McGuire, who is our resident psychotherapist and paranormal investigator. And we know by definition that's a parapsychologist, because he's got a degree in psychology.
I was going to say, you mean parapsychologist.
Right. And Reverend Xiaoming Pan, retired Methodist Reverend, PhD in divinity. Very impressive resume. Just a wonderful lady. Our resident theologian. So we have different people, and then we have people bringing their certifications into, you know, like Heather Breezer, Reiki Master certified. I mean, for ufology, I'm a certified ufologist. It's not a doctorate, and it's, you know, not a master's, but it's some kind of education. You know,
but
so,
you know, here's the thing that we'll talk about, because that was another thing. We really need to do another meeting like this, but on the ufology side of things, because when you think UFOs and you think ufology, we think spacemen in the sky and everything else, and it's such a massive field. But there is a correlation to demonology, isn't there?
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah. And in fact, on the Wisconsin UFO research team, which Mike Lucas, another member of our society, who used to be Mufon state director for Wisconsin, it's a impressive title in ufology to have. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I should say, as of last year, ufology is now technically no longer a pseudoscience. There are, starting as of last year, an academic college in Turkey offered a course on ufology, and since then, other colleges are starting to offer courses on ufology, which are basically based on the education I got from Mufon, which is based on scientific method. That's what it comes down to, scientific method. And even in our investigations, that's what we want to do, apply scientific method the best we can.
Yeah.
So whether it be certifications in demonology or ufology, because they're pseudosciences, and you can't get academic. Now you can. I think I'm grandfathered in as far as a scientist goes, because the course I took was the best that was offered in ufology at the time. I
would say so. I mean, that's spearheaded by, Mufon. When you say Mufon, that's... Yeah. I know the guys at Mufon. I've spoken to Roger recently as well. I'm trying to get them guys to link in with us at PDN as well. It is quite... because I've had a theory. I met... what's his name? The director of Mufon. I was at the Mufon conference. I was up there, and I met... what's his face, who's just passed, actually.
Stanton Friedman.
It was great to meet Stanton Friedman, but he didn't want to speak about UFOs. He wanted to speak about whiskey in Scotland, so that was kind of...
Well, there's another example of someone bringing their academics to... he was a nuclear physicist, and he brought that to ufology.
He did. Stanton Friedman was amazing. I really enjoyed chatting with him. I really, really enjoyed meeting the guys. And the thing was, I went there as a medium to the Mufon conference, and I was invited there, and I'm sitting with high-ranking Air Force people, not tin hat people that believe in spacemen and stuff. These are you had Stanton Friedman, there was so many people there that had very high ranks in the military, that would sit and have a lunch with them, and these guys were not stupid, and they were physicists, and they were, and you know that I was amazed that it was taken really serious. And of course, we know that we've got disclosure with the government, and my first book was actually supported by Nick Pope. He did the forward. Yeah, Nick did the forward for my first book. I've always respected Nick's work for the Ministry of Defence in Britain and his UFO work. And I've had a theory for many, many years that a lot of the, well, I won't say that there is benevolent and malevolent UFO experiences. And I would say that a lot of these, there's a lot of UFO experiences that I've said, well, that to me is get the modus operandi of a demonic presence or a demonic case. Exactly. You're pretty much the expert in that side of things, Kev. Let me know.
Recognize it. That's why Jennifer is a member of. Okay, so as I was saying, Mike Lucas founded the UFO Wisconsin research team after we left Mufon, and so that is an affiliate. Like it's a separate entity from the NWPS, but it's affiliated with the NWPS because there are members from both. So, and 4 of the NWPS members are also members of the Wisconsin UFO research team, which is mostly comprised of former MUFON field investigators, quality investigators. That, except they don't have to deal with the politics of MUFON or anymore. But the 2 other members are Tom and Jennifer. Tom being a psychotherapist, Jennifer being a demonologist. Yeah. We recognize that, and this is one of the reasons we had compatibility issues with MUFON, is because unless Tom or Jennifer were paying MUFON dues, they didn't want them involved in any cases I was working on, right? Which is a problem because as an investigator, I want to use all my resources available to me. Tom and Jennifer are professional.
And let's face it, Kev, you're not getting paid for your investigations.
Right.
I mean, we do accept donations, but we won't bill anybody for a service. Right.
And he talks about the alien demonic connection, and this is something I came across during my studies. And my late mentor even talked about it a couple of times on his radio show. He once got contacted by a woman who was freaked out because her first encounter, she thought she was experiencing gray aliens. She said she always wanted to see an alien. She wanted to see a gray. She thought it would be the coolest thing in the world. One night, she's laying in bed, 3 a.m., sleep paralysis kicks in. Sleep paralysis. She looks, she's able to move her eyes to where her window, where a wall is by her bed. 6 small grays come walking through the wall. They part ways. A taller gray comes in. She said that she thought it was the coolest thing ever. She finally saw an ET. This started happening. It got to the point where it started happening night after night after night. 3 a.m., same scenario, until she finally realized that what she thought she may be dealing with may be something else completely. She contacts Ken, and she goes, I need help. And she explains her situation. He goes, there's a way for you to find out. He goes, if it happens again, he goes, and I hope this doesn't happen again. He goes, should it happen again, yell Jesus' name. He goes, try and say Jesus' name as loud as you can. He goes, if you're able to do it and these things don't react, then you're more than likely dealing with an ET. He goes, and now, if you say Jesus' name and these things react, then you just witnessed the masquerade, and that was basically the demonic entities masquerading as grays. So he told her to keep in touch, let him know how it went. She thanked him and hung up the phone. Same night, 3 a.m., same scenario. 6 small grays come in. Part ways, the tall one comes in. After a few seconds, she was able to yell out Jesus' name. She said when she did that, they looked at the 6 small ones, looked up at the tall one, hissed at each other. They turned to her, hissed at her, and took off through the bedroom wall, and she never had another problem with them again.
Right. Classic.
And people don't realize that demonic forces or malevolent forces can actually mimic, and they will mimic what you desire.
Right.
Yes.
Because when you're sitting there and you want to see something so bad and you don't realize it, you're putting out that invitation into the universe. And when you do that, what do you think is going to be the first thing that's going to come and take advantage of it? They're like, oh, well, check her out. She wants to see a gray alien. We'll give her a gray alien.
Give her a gray alien. Yeah. And here's the other thing, in mediumship, they can masquerade as your loved ones, and they can masquerade, and then of course you have to have religious provocation. It doesn't need to be religious, but in certain provocation ways. But it happens all the time. They can influence so subtly, and they can give you what you want. And this is what I've always maintained, is that you need to understand discernment. And discernment is, like I said in my book, discernment's not something you learn. It's not something that you can go on a course and do. And it's not something somebody can teach you. It's something that is developed, and it's developed over many years.
It's like the same thing with spirit guides. And by the way, when I read your book, I was sitting there shaking my head in agreement with everything you said. Because
I like that.
Especially when it comes to spirit guides. Okay, you get these people that are even up and coming mediums. Okay, everybody wants a spirit guide so bad that a human spirit or even an inhuman spirit can come in and claim to be that particular spirit guide. And so you have these people going on thinking that they're being contacted by they're coming in contact with their spirit guide when it's something else.
Do you know, I don't know if you've seen the video that I did recently, guys. I did a video on fake spirit guides. And since I actually put that video, that educational video up, I've had so many people contact me and said, I've had a bad experience. I thought I was communicating with a spirit guide, and it turned out to be totally something malevolent, and it turned my life upside down for a bit. And then, and luckily I've not had anybody that's said I was,
Yeah.
And how will you know? By the fruits, by the fruits of what it's relaying.
Right.
Because a greater good spirit guide will, what it will convey to you will resonate with what you know to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's feeding you stuff that your inner self, your inner being is telling you there's something wrong with it, or I don't like that, or why did he say that, or
doesn't feel right with me.
There's your flag.
Right. Like if they're sitting there telling you to harm yourself or to harm a family member,
then for sure.
Or to do this or to do that, and it's just go by feeling too. And I tell people too, and this is a big thing, if you're coming in contact with a being that's claiming to be your spirit guide, and you feel very ill at ease, you feel very uncomfortable, it seems to be nothing but negative, it's not what you're thinking that it is. It's not a spirit guide, because a spirit guide would not do that type of stuff to you. If you have to the point where you have this particular being claiming to be a spirit guide telling you that you can go to the grocery store once a week because it tells you it's okay, stop. There's something wrong there. It's not, something doesn't add up.
And what I'll add as well is that it's when you start to have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts, you can be guaranteed that it's not got your best interests at heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually, when I deal with my spirit guide, I usually look for signs, because we have a report that when I get this particular signs that I get, I know it's my spirit guide.
I'll tell you a little how I met my spirit guide, and this goes back to the circle that we had in Scotland, and I went into deep trance, and actually I thought I was really ignorant, fell asleep, and direct voice, we had voice come through, and they gave the spirit guide, said who they were, gave evidence, full name, everything, every single morsel detail that you can think about. And when I kind of came to pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen, but I was like, yeah, what a load of bollocks that is. Absolutely not. Away, go and jump. That's a lot of, that must have just came from my mind or something like that. But I didn't believe any of it until it was actually verified later. And then a pattern of verification started to happen over a long period of time, not just short, in order to develop that relationship. So, I mean, it took me going into deep trance for those guides to come through, because I'm like, pardon me again, I'm like, hell no, am I not doing that? Pardon the pun there. But that's how, and I think too many people are too readily want to get a guide like that.
Yeah. And, you know, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to get to know your spirit guide.
No.
But you have to be careful. And it's like you said at the very beginning, it's to the point now where they're saying that in the world of psychics and mediumship, that nothing is evil, it's only love and light. I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
No, it's not.
That's not how it works. There's balance, there's light and dark, there's good and bad, there's good and evil.
I've said,
by these people walking around telling other people that everything is all sunshine and rainbows, that puts them more in danger, because either they're ignorant to it, or they don't want to believe it, or they just ignore the negative of it completely, when you can't ignore the negative side of it.
I think, Jen, actually there's a subconscious fear of it, and they just don't want to relate to it.
Right. I think, and that's a huge part of it too.
But one of the things I'll say to people is, but what are you going to do if a family turns up on your doorstep or contacts you and they're absolutely distraught and they're absolutely going nuts and they're having so much suffering, they're actually having phenomena, the kids being scratched and bitten and God knows what else. What are you going to do? You're going to turn around and tell them, don't worry about it. There's no such thing as evil out there. That's just, everybody goes to the spirit world. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's no. It's a big no-no. That's a big no-no.
It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that.
Have you read Christina Rake's book, God and the Paranormal, yet?
Mediumship and the Paranormal.
Mediumship and the Paranormal. God, Mediumship,
and the Paranormal.
I thought it was God and the Paranormal. Anyways, Christina Rake has got this book, God and the Paranormal, Mediumship, and the Afterlife.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think that's what it is. Quite an amazing book, because, you know, like, a lot of people get hung up on the idea that nobody should communicate with spirits at all under any reason, because it's necromancy in the Bible. Well, obviously we know that interpretations get changed and things get pulled out.
Yeah.
And, plus, and just misinterpretation, I think, is the big one. And not understanding the pretext or the context of the situations in which some of the content comes from, you get this situation where there's that butting heads of psychics and what's biblically correct for some denominations. And what I like about what Christina Rake has done is she is a theologian. She's got a PhD in divinity as well, I believe, or something akin. So she knows her Bible and she knows theology, and she's also gifted and has even been academically tested for it. So she is, and as bishop of the Old Catholic Church in Chicago, she is in an excellent position to look at all this information and put it together. She knows what her heart tells her is right and wrong, just like we do.
Yeah.
What Scripture says, she knows how it's been misinterpreted, and she really does a beautiful way in explaining that, yes, there's some things that we shouldn't be doing, but just in general, when you pray for a loved one, or if you pray, or not pray to a loved one, but if you want to talk to a loved one, I guess it would be in the context of prayer, that it's not a bad thing, you know, and just taking that taboo out of it. She did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think
actually I wrote an article, which it just follows on for this brilliantly. I wrote an article in Paranormal Daily News called Catholic Church Finally Accepts Mediums. And I went right back to the Didache and to ancient texts and said, you know, and I said it in Deadly Departed, I mean, the temples were filled with mediums. Speaking in tongues was trance.
Here's the thing. Medium, the term medium that we see in the King James Bible, Okay, that term medium wasn't even invented until 200 years ago. Okay, until any time before 200 years, no one ever used the word medium. The term is ghost wife.
Ghost wife.
That the word now medium stands for. There were two different things, essentially. Because what a ghost wife did back then involved blood, ritual, amongst other things, and was very dark and was not, it was way more akin to the demonic necromancy than it was a spirit or somebody with abilities being able to connect with a loved one or sense something or pick something up remotely, or I mean, two totally different things. But yet the translation gets so muddied, pretty soon all mediums are evil and in league with the devil, and it's like, wait a minute.
You know, at the end of the day, we've got to understand Jesus Christ was an amazing medium. If we look at the Ritual Romanum, although it was changed in 1950, there was more additions to it. But if we look back at the ritual at the time, it was it was the Pope who was having a clairvoyant vision of what was happening. It was an element in mediumship that even brought the Ritual Romanum together.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Another example of a historically gifted person, Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc, absolutely.
Joan of Arc, she heard the voice of God.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazingly gifted. And the church forgets this. And this is why I've always said, you know, demonology or exorcism or anything like this is not just boiled down to one particular group or organization. Yes, the Catholic Church has a lot to do with it because of what they've put into it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Catholic Church also has its negative side as well, you know what I mean?
I know, and that's part of the reason we don't ascribe, basically, because we are aware of the issues or the problems. Some might call the challenges the church has got to deal with. I say, yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the stuff that we've been made aware of is
crazy.
For a whole nother show.
Yeah.
It is a whole nother show, and I'm going to be bringing you back on that one. And it's interesting that you bring up the old Catholic Church, because I've kind of looked into that a lot over the years, because I've kind of liked the way that they have disambiguated, you know.
I am comfortable with how they have approached things. Now, if you talk to people in the Roman Catholic Church, they feel that anything that's not Roman Catholic is like a copy of. It's not the real thing. It's not as effective. There are flaws. But yet, when you look at the old Catholic Church and every other Orthodox branch, they have just the same general success everyone else's.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you're right. Deliverance is not owned by any one denomination.
No.
All religions have had success in their different ways of dealing with deliverance. And, you know, when we say exorcism, that's just a brand name for Roman Catholics' brand of deliverance.
I will say, in some Christian thought belief systems, I think there's a little bit of ignorance in terms of doing, you know where I'm going to go with this, in the crowds and pulling them out and saying you've got 1,000 demons in you, let's put the cross on you and you're here. I mean, really, if half of these pastors had really dealt in demonology seriously and they had faced it, there would be a space in the wall as they have gone right through it. If they've
Yeah.
But I cringe when I see it. I'm like, no, that's not right. No.
You're right. And there are blacklists for demonologists, the ones that basically we know are fraudulent, and they know they're being fraudulent. And yeah, you know, I don't want to say names. I'm not going to say names, but there are individuals out there that, like you've described, that, like, you know, have the lines of people.
Yeah.
And they hit them and with the book and all this. And it's like, you're right.
Listen, Kevin, if they went into a house and there was phenomena that was happening and things were happening to some poor person as they stood there with marks and God knows what else and bites, and they wouldn't be there. They would be straight out the frigging wall. They'd be through the wall faster than you could even drop your pencil.
I think that the reason some of these guys don't have the spiritual problems that you would expect they would have is because they're in a league with the evil that they're pretending to be against. But what it comes down to with demonology is you have, those people that appease demons and those people that oppose demons. Mm-hmm. That's the split, the good and evil. Because you could be an evil demonologist. You could be into demonology is just understanding the angelic and the demonic, and thus the demonic, and the principalities and how they work and how they affect people.
From Dionysus.
Right? But each demonologist is going to have a religious pretext that they're viewing from, and not all of it's love and light. Some of it is dark. There are dark demonologists out there who are into rituals and black magic and that kind of thing, and that's the difference. So sometimes what happens is you'll get deliverance groups or people that are very close to that line, but are just over that dark line where they're feeding demons, and they're kind of showing it as they're opposing demons. But when you look at the practices that they're actually doing in the rituals, you can see that there's appeasement going on. It's not opposing. It's not, you need to be gone. There's like, oh, if we do this and we do that, then it won't hurt.
Accepting it.
And now, you're making deals with demons is what's coming out. You're appeasing them. So, sometimes you'll get groups and at first they seem like, oh yeah, they're very religious and stuff. But if they come into your house and like we just said this on Paranormal Soup, mm-hmm. But for those listening, if they come in your house, if they have swords and they're drawing circles on your stars on your floor and those kinds of things, steer clear, because that's they're clearly there are other ways to deal with it that don't involve appeasing. Because once you start appeasing demons, you're making pacts with them. And in a sense, that in itself is kind of an invitation because you're willing to work with them in a sense.
Right.
So, it is an invitation. I've always maintained that it's an people don't realize that there's ways of inviting that they don't even know they're inviting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, God, we could be chatting for days and days and days, and I'm very aware of the time, and I'm gonna just cut this now towards the end. We've gone over this about an hour and a half, and I this has been fascinating, and I think the listeners are going to love this, and you guys are going to come back because we've got loads more to talk about. But what advice would you guys give? Kevin, Jenn, somebody comes to you and they go, hey, I want to be a demonologist and do what you guys do. What would you say to them?
There's a lot of things. Well, for one,
and that's another show.
It is actually, because they're for one, the first thing we look at is the age.
The age, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, and children. If you have a family and children, that could be there are certain things you want to look at, because if you choose this as a career, things can affect other people outside of just yourself.
Yeah.
So that's
best thing
to be aware of.
Yeah.
So we say demonologist, really 35 or older is probably is that. Yeah, I mean that's
35 or older.
On a family.
Yeah, when you do this kind of work, like we were speaking at the beginning, like I said, once you start researching on these beings that don't want you to know anything about them, they're going to let you know that
we know
that they know that you're studying them, and if you find yourself in studies. Don't get too deep into your studies. Take breaks. Walk away.
I do. In fact, actually, Jen, I recently had to tell a colleague, you're doing too much of this. You need to back off a little bit.
Well, it's an idea that even God says take every 7 days and honor Him and just give everything a break.
Right.
Your work life, your this, you know, it's just the idea of, yes, you need to take breaks. And it was so important that it was a commandment. Yeah. I mean, that must be important for us for some reason.
Right. And as far as Kevin was speaking on protection, you know, keep medals on you. I recommend St. Benedict medals, St. Michael medals. Keep your home blessed. Keep your vehicle blessed. If you're a paranormal investigator, keep your equipment blessed. You know, prayer. Prayer is a powerful weapon.
I mean, I've said that, yeah. Prayer is the... but people, here's the thing, you know, Jen, people don't know how to pray.
Right.
Yeah. Some people haven't been introduced to it properly.
No.
They don't feel comfortable.
You know, you can use prayers like, you know, the prayer to St. Michael. St. Michael's amazing. When we do even paranormal case investigations, if we get the rare cases that are negative, I call on St. Michael. He's the first one I go to. You know, for people out there that are into the rosary, you know, pray the rosary.
You're going to have to put in, if you're going to be a demonologist and one that opposes demons, a religious demonologist, a Christian demonologist, a Catholic, whatever. Yeah. You're going to have to put more time than the average person puts into trying to obtain some kind of piety. And that involves going to church.
Yeah,
that involves, rosary. That involves prayer. That involves meditation. That involves charity work. Yeah. For real. Yeah. No.
Absolutely. I've always maintained to lead, and I did a video on this, to lead a clean life.
Yeah. You know, it's like another thing we burn around here on a daily, nightly basis. You know, and we've done this even since before I got into my studies up here. Holy incense, frankincense, and myrrh. Something that
just raises the vibration.
Because we know that when you have something that's as blessed and as holy and has been around since forever, you know, when it comes to anything lower vibrational or negative, they're repelled by that. They don't want to be around something like that.
In fact, when we get done, we'll probably put on, and we do this, when we put time and energy discussing this out loud, open, if we're talking to a client, if we're on the phone for a couple hours or in an interview like this, then she'll put on different prayers, or you can find them on YouTube for now, right? Jeez, knock on wood. But yeah, you can find, like, you know, she'll put on like the book of this or the book of that, or just somebody reading the Bible, or put on a sermon, or something
high vibration.
You got to balance it out. If you're putting in too much time in the dark and you're not putting in enough time in honoring God and His covenant and the commandments and stuff, then you're going to start, problems are going to ensue. And the other thing is, do things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the keys that keeps us out of, there are so many other paranormal professionals that find themselves having a bunch of issues with this. And I sometimes they're not making the best decisions in taking that case or doing this or that, and trouble will ensue. So if you're going to help the family and if you're going to do paranormal investigating, make sure you're there for the right reasons. And
absolutely. I would absolutely 100% agree with that. I think that is the most important basis of anything, is to be honorable and do it for the right reasons. It's the same in mediumship. You do it for the right reasons.
Right. I can agree more. And for those, I want to put this out there really quick. When it comes to getting into the studies of demonology, read into it a little bit. Make sure that this is something you absolutely want to get into, because if you're not, and you have reservations when you start studying, that's usually something telling you that you're not meant to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
We don't recommend courses that you could just pay money and get a certificate.
Yeah.
Without any study. No. We'll only recognize certifications if there is study involved, if there's a test, and if the person giving the course is credible. Yeah. Now, if them things apply, then I have no problem honoring that. As you know, hey, you've taken time out of your life and your world to educate yourself on this so you can help others. Okay.
You know, it's interesting because people have asked me, how did you get into it? And I said, I don't know. I actually didn't want to. I never asked for it.
I think it's when it comes to this kind of work, we're kind of pulled into it. We don't necessarily ask for it.
You're kind of chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it is. I would never have never chase it. And it seemed to be for me, the pattern was this: I've got this problem. Can you help? No, really. Was nobody else? Can you help? Okay. I've got this problem. Can you help? I've got this problem. Look, guys, I'm not into this. I've got this problem. Can you help? Nobody else can help. And then it just, right, okay, I get the message.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the experiences that you experience. I mean, I've had negative, really bad experiences, and
yeah. And that's another thing people don't realize when they want to get involved in this work. You will have issues with these things.
Oh, aye.
And it will not be pleasant. So please make sure this is something that you want to do before you decide to jump headlong into it.
As I've said to you before, Jen, I will never forget the time I was on my knees praying early in the morning, crying my heart out because I couldn't take it. You know, so it's going to affect you. It's definitely going to affect you. Well, listen, guys.
One more thing really quick. Can I just say really, really quick? Since a mentor. If you want to become a demonologist,
find a mentor.
You're qualified. If you think, you know, and with the 35-year-old, that's general.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're 33, and don't sweat it. You know what I'm saying? But basically, yeah, you want to be around for a little while and have some life experience. But a mentor.
Yeah.
Find a mentor in your faith base that is versed in this stuff, and ask them if they would teach you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everyone should have a mentor, and a good mentor, if you need something in writing, they'll give you one.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're qualified and they know what they're doing. And then, so, yeah. But I just wanted to say that too.
Absolutely. People that have experience and you know, people that want to learn, and you really need someone who's going to help and guide you, that's been through it. It's like I've said, you know, it's a business coach that that teaches how to write a book and has never published a book is no use. A business coach who teaches you marketing and has never marketed is, how do you get that? So you really need the people that have the experience and have gone through it, have suffered through it, have learned through it, and can guide you properly, because it's not an easy life to take up.
No, it's not.
Listen, guys, honestly, it's been absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad that we got a chat, and I know there's going to be a lot more about this. And ladies and gentlemen, these guys do really, really amazing work. And if you've really enjoyed this podcast, then please go to their website, give them a little donation, whether it's $2, $5, $1, everything helps. These guys do everything out of the goodness of their heart. They don't charge anything, but you can help them by showing them support so that they can go out and serve other people that are suffering. And this will not be the last time you'll be hearing from Kev and Jenn Malek. And of course, we'll have our own organizational workshops and things coming up in Paraguay, and you can stay tuned for that. We're trying to work all those details out. These guys will be one of the speakers on there. And guys, thank you for spending the time. This has been absolutely awesome, and we could probably go on for days and days and days.
Oh, I know it.
Thank you so much for having us on. It was an honor.
Yes, and next month, Jock, you'll be on Paraversal Universe. And
yes, I'm going to be a guest on Paraversal Universe.
Yeah.
I actually said it right.
Yes.
And we're both really excited.
Yes.
It's going to be great.
I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. In fact, actually today when I was looking forward to this, and I panicked because I thought I got my timing and everything wrong. But that's it, guys. Please go and support these guys. Support the amazing work that they do. And it will not be the last time. Thank you for listening and even watching Deadly Departed in the videos. And thank you for buying the books, for my book and for other books out there. There's plenty information out there. And stay tuned, because we will be back with a lot more. Have a great evening, guys. God bless. Guys, that was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. This was great. We had a blast.